back to Block TV, and today we are joined from London by Oliver von Landsberg-Sadie, CEO of the BCB Group. Oliver, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
All right, well, Oliver, first off, the BCB Group is the first and only UK-based regulated payment institution that's dedicated to crypto. What does that enable you to do for your clients that an unregulated institution can't?
That's right. It's taken quite a lot to get that significant milestone, and what it enables us to do is provide business banking for what is an incredibly hard to bank market. Cryptocurrency exchanges, market makers, blockchain projects in general really struggle with basic banking. So by having a payments license and being the only one to have a payments license dedicated to the crypto space enables us to provide basic banking services, transaction banking.
I know that is a very big issue for many blockchain and crypto-based clients and companies, where essentially a lot of the banks don't want to touch money that comes from crypto because of the issues that might have with the government. So you're saying that clients that are banking through you, they don't run into those issues with regulators or banks?
I mean, this whole crypto space has many risks, which traditional banks are either too afraid to address or are ill-equipped to address. It's actually one of the chief concerns by skeptics of the crypto space is money laundering and the traceability of cash that may be funding criminal activity. The irony, as you're well aware, is that in the crypto space, with blockchains that are transparent like Bitcoin and Ethereum, transactions are extremely traceable. So these risks can be managed. And it's taking traditional banking a long time to catch up with the technology here. We're crypto native, but we're also from traditional finance. So this is, the product we have manages those risks. We've persuaded both the FCA in London and FINMA in Switzerland that this is not a big scary thing that a lot of people are making it out to be. It's actually a space that we can promote professional and institutional growth in.
And because you're crypto native, as well as coming from a well-established background in traditional finances, do you feel that regulation on the crypto sphere is where it needs to be, or is there further work to be done?
I think regulation is only just beginning to understand and to describe crypto assets in any meaningful level of detail. The regulations are clear enough that we can do what we do today, but there's a lot of work to do in describing the future of things like security tokens and raising money in what happened in 2017 and 2018 in the ICO boom. That needs a whole regulatory framework of its own. Now, there's a lot of people who are kind of on the far left liberal end of the spectrum who don't want any of that government oversight or intervention, but from my point of view, it's the only realistic way that this market will truly grow and be useful worldwide.
Yes, and now you guys also offer at BCB custodial services. Is that purely a set it and forget about it cold storage, or are these hot wallets for fast trading?
We need to service both of those needs. Some clients buy and hold, and some clients trade intraday. Our custody solution, which borrows the best of best practice with a number of well-established custody partners, allows both of those. So you can have fast, secure settlement with multi-sig, or you can have cold storage insured for as long as you need it to be.
And when it comes to crypto and digital asset security, what's the biggest threat facing it today?
Today, that's a great question. It's the human part of the value chain. The technology is clever enough now that pure technical hacks are more difficult than ever. But it's always the social engineering that is the weakest link in any kind of business, especially the crypto space. There is a small pocket of the crypto world which has become a lot less liquid, a lot less active. Those are much more vulnerable to what's known as the 51% attack, where if more than half of the network is controlled by any single organization, then they can alter the blockchain, they can make double payments, they can reverse payments, they can edit the blockchain. So that risk is only really present for the tiniest, most illiquid projects. On the whole, with Bitcoin as the main, flag flyer of the crypto space, those security concerns are not a major factor.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're working with institutions and institutional traders. When you speak to those institutional traders, do they feel that digital assets are kind of there yet? Do they think that it's a mature market, a mature product?
So when I'm thinking about are we there yet in the institutional grade trading product, my points of reference are what's happened in the bonds and equities world over the last 20 years. And looking at what's happened there, you've had markets growing in liquidity and buying and selling the underlying instrument, like the stock or the bond. And then on top of that, methods to manage the risks of the prices. So, the whole derivatives market that addresses that price risk. And then beyond that, it gets a little, esoteric when we start getting into structured products, which recombine these things. Today, what's really well established in the crypto market is a spot market price. Derivatives, which help you manage that risk, is the next phase, and it is beginning to grow out with projects like Backed and all the futures markets that we're seeing emerge, and that will continue to grow as people find greater use for those risk management tools. That's really the next phase. Much further down the line, we've still got the funky structured product area, which is where it gets really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's the biggest complaint you get from institutions that are not yet trading digital assets as to why they're holding back? Is it the lack of those well-established derivative products, or is it something else?
It's a lack of those well-established derivative products, as well as a lack of market depth in Bitcoin itself. If you've got a $1 billion fund, which is not a big fund in the hedge fund space, and you want to put even a 5% allocation of that into Bitcoin, that $50 million trade is massive in the crypto space and will move the market 2, 3, 4, 5%. Whereas if you wanted to put a $50 million position in a highly liquid alternative mainstream equity or equity index like the FTSE or Nasdaq, it's not going to move the needle. So having the tools, as you say, number one is missing from is holding institutions back. But number two, it's really hard just to take a meaningful position right now. You have to accumulate slowly.
Mm-hmm. It's the problem of a whale trying to fit into a small pond, essentially, with this lack of money in the game. Now, how has 100%. Now, right now we can't have any discussion without speaking or touching a little bit about COVID-19. How has COVID-19, and the subsequent volatility in the traditional markets, how has that affected institutional trading of digital assets?
As in any market, when we have a period of volatility, there are profit opportunities, and many trading desks have taken advantage of those and have seen spikes in revenue and in volume. BCB is no different. We've had some level of benefit from a volatile period. Looking at the COVID-19 context in general, I think this crypto space is an online electronic space, and most participants self-isolate voluntarily anyway as a lifestyle choice. So this space is doing okay.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah, we've definitely covered that. I know the cryptosphere well, and I could back you up on that assessment. There's now more than $7 billion locked up in stablecoins right now. And when it comes to institutions, what value does stablecoins actually hold to institutions if they're not going to be gaining money on the price?
Any institution who has tried to settle cash, I don't mean cash notes, I mean a USD from one bank to another will have experienced a number of elements of settlement risk. There's the lag between the banks agreeing that the money is safe. There is the crossover of different payment schemes. So you've got a European holder of USD who wants to pay an American bank who's on a different payment scheme, the ACH, then you need correspondent banks to handle that money. So it's slow and it's expensive. What stablecoins like USDC from Circle or Tether, what they offer is a way to solve that settlement problem, so that sending a unit of stablecoin is as quick and as reliable as sending a unit of Bitcoin. It's instant, it's very cost efficient, and it's solving a lot of those fundamental settlement problems.
Mm-hmm. Now, we could argue, from today until next week about, which is the, the best cryptocurrency or digital asset. But in your view, when it comes to what has the biggest potential to actually make a major change to global financial markets, in your view, which digital asset is that? Whether it be Bitcoin or even one we don't even know of yet?
I think if we want to see what's going to make the biggest change over the next few years, we need to look at infrastructure projects that are closest to what institutions really need today. I think stablecoins, which you brought up in an earlier question, are a great example of that. They are effectively an infrastructure project that is blending the best of what blockchain technology has to offer with what institutions really need and trade. So I don't know what's going to emerge over the next 10, 20 years in terms of a dominant technology or asset in the crypto space. But if you were an investor looking to get exposure, you could do worse than to look at those projects which have infrastructure as their focus. Mm-hmm. And not to kind of I guess promote my own company too much, but that's really our core vision is to be an integral part of the future infrastructure for this by having that efficiency of settlement.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we're speaking about infrastructure, when it comes to digital assets, we have to mention CBDCs. With this huge financial shakeup, markets are seeing something they haven't seen in a lifetime, and governments are printing money and trying to really, kind of stop the bleeding at this point. Do you think that we will see a CBDC anytime soon?
It's a great question, and one I'm not sure I have a strong position on. But zooming out to the core question of fixed supply versus the loose money printing supply that is endemic to central banks when they're in trouble. This is definitely a moment that assets like Bitcoin can get attention for their deflationary value, and I think it enhances the core message of that original Satoshi vision, that when you're in trouble, there are better economic ways of solving those problems than simply by printing money.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to get your opinion deeper on that, because you do come from a really strong traditional financial background. You're a quant, you were at MIT and as well as London School of Business. What, in your opinion, when you see governments, I mean, this is essentially what the cryptosphere has been crying out for. Armageddon, governments are printing money at a record rate. In your opinion, will there be a reckoning to pay once this is all over, for the governments pumping cash into the market?
What makes this situation different to the money printing of 2007 to 2009 is that it's not a single country doing this. It's not just the US trying to rescue some banks on a subprime crisis. COVID-19 has given cause for many governments to engage in money printing. Now, when you have a single country printing money, you have a massive skew on local inflation, and it changes the whole FX space. What's unprecedented in this COVID-19 era is that so many governments are printing money that there is an argument to make that those inflationary effects may offset each other when you consider cross-border trade. So look, I think we are lining ourselves up for trouble. We are postponing a problem rather than solving one. I think time will tell how this plays out.
For sure. Time will tell how this plays it out. And thank you for taking the time, Oliver, to fill us in a little bit about what's happening on your end. And for all our viewers at home, if you want more on blockchain, crypto, and technology news, make sure to check us out at blocktv.com.
Watch us on Amazon Fire TV and Roku.